Hey, what's up? This is Armor King here. There's no doubt we are still very much in the age of collaboration, and consistently, collaborative products have been some of the most hyped and most discussed releases online. Some collabs this year, like the Nike and acronym Blazers we covered on the channel, have produced some amazing and highly regarded results, which take the ethos of two brands and use that to produce something greater than the sum of their parts. And we've seen some other collaborations as well. This is definitely one of the collabs of all time. And I want to take a look at a specific genre of collaboration, ones between streetwear brands and gorpcore or outdoor fashion brands. There have been a lot in the last couple of years: Supreme and South 2 West 8, Palace and Arc'teryx, and in the last week, two more have been added to the mix: Supreme and Nike ACG, and Palace and Engineered Garments. Two of the best known streetwear brands and two very well known technical outdoor performance brands. But what is the point of this type of collaboration? Is there any value in this dual branded clothing, or is it just a desperate attempt for brands to capitalize on their newfound popularity and sell some stuff under the guise of it being limited and exclusive and you better buy it before it runs out? You all certainly had some thoughts on those questions, so thanks to everyone that replied over on Instagram. It is easy to clown on heavily branded gear. Brick with no logo, cheap. But brick with logo, expensive. I'm very intelligent and a shrewd fashion commentator. Especially in the 2022 fashion meta, when unbranded looks and beige neutral tones are in. But I think there's something interesting and confusing going on, which demands investigation. Let me explain. Historically, streetwear brands have given cultural relevance and street fashion appeal to the brands they collaborate with. Supreme had their hand in creating some of the most sought after North Face jackets of all time. Supreme bring the coolness, the North Face bring the construction, materials, the performance stuff. The result gives you a more technical piece of clothing than Supreme would do, but a trendier look and branding than what the North Face could do. It's a win-win. But oh how the turntables, because in 2022, it is the outdoor fashion, the gorpcore brands, which are the ones that have that cultural appeal and that everyone wants to wear right now. It feels like more people are wearing or want to wear Arc'teryx and Salomon than they do Palace and Supreme. So we return to the initial question. What is the point then? What do Nike ACG have to gain by teaming up with Supreme, or Engineered Garments have by teaming up with Palace? And yet both of these collaborations had products sell out in minutes, so they're clearly good for business, but are they good for us as consumers? Well, I've got a couple of examples to help us answer that question. I've got the Supreme and Nike ACG long sleeve top here, and I also have the Palace and Engineered Garments zip-up hoodie. Oh, he got the Palace. Oh, we got the Supreme. Both of these I think are interesting in their own right, but we'll take a look at the collaborations in a more general sense as well to help us answer that question. So let's get investigating. And I'm also taking this off because it's getting hot. Roll the intro. Streetwear and skate brands right now, I don't think have the ability to provide a one-stop cosign to let everyone know that the brands that they collaborate with are cool and on trend and you can wear them in the streets. We have plenty of evidence already to suggest that these outdoor fashion, these gorpcore brands, whatever you want to call them, are applicable to wear in these environments, and people are wearing them in a fashion and a streetwear context. Those shapes and materials refer back to their hiking context because they all existed for a reason, not for fashion. They're lightweight, they're breathable, they're water resistant, they've got carrying capacity, you can move around easily in them. And similarly, the now heavily memed Gore-Tex shell that's guaranteed to keep you dry and guaranteed to repel women has of course been used far longer by serious hikers and mountaineers who want it for its performance rather than fashion fans who want it for the aesthetic it brings. And that's fine that change has happened. I'm not going to be that guy that gatekeeps what types of clothing you're allowed to wear based on what you do. Oh, you like Arc'teryx, huh? Name every dinosaur from the Tithonian period. Oh, you like Antwon? Name 3 famous triangles. What streetwear brands might be able to help with though is helping these outdoor brands navigate this newfound popularity and this new audience approaching the brand from a different angle. If they stick too closely to their core audience and don't change up what they're doing, they might lose this absolutely massive potential market. But conversely, if they go too hard into trying to make these new cool fashion products to appeal to a trendy new buyer, they might lose that core audience they worked so hard to build, whilst also alienating the new people who can smell a rat that and kind of decide, well, this product isn't really very authentic anymore. What's more, trends come and go. There's no telling how long technical fashion will remain in vogue. You don't want to pivot entirely to a fashion audience who then abandons you a few seasons later. So there's a few ways a streetwear collaboration can help out. First, I think it can help communicate a statement of intent or an alignment of values. If Nike ACG release a collection with Supreme, that is a direct statement that, hey, this Nike ACG stuff, yeah, it looks like it's for outdoor hiker stuff, but actually, you can definitely wear this as a streetwear fashion product as well. And they can do that knowing full well that they don't need Supreme for the brand to be considered cool. And in the same way, there is a kind of implicit endorsement of the values that Supreme stand for. Rebellious spirit, skate culture, etc. It creates a little bit of a link between those two brands without Nike ACG suddenly coming out with this whole crazy campaign about it being the brand for radical skater dudes who don't care about nothing. That would potentially be a little bit damaging to the brand, or at least not go in the direction that they want to go in with their main stuff. Another benefit is freedom and flexibility. These collaborations allow brands to create new stuff which frankly they'd never get away with if they just produced it under their own name. Clothing which is more obviously suited to a casual lifestyle or fashion user, which could go in the face of their core product offering. Some of the way that this occurs is through use of their own logo and really bringing that to the forefront. We see that with Palace and Arc'teryx, for example, where they've really put that front and center, or even in the more recent Beams collaboration where they've used that supersized Arc'teryx logo on the arm. That kind of goes against the general aesthetic of their mainline products, which keeps the logo relatively subtly placed. And yes, I know there's the System A Cobalt, let's just put that to the side for now. It's a sub-line, it doesn't count, or flashier colorways which have some flex appeal or add aesthetic value that's not derived from the performance of the product. These sort of patchwork things that we're seeing are definitely a good example of that. Admittedly, brands doing collaborations at all can invoke annoyance of the hardcore fans. Just look at some of the reactions to that Palace and Arc'teryx collaboration that we already spoke about. I think that criticism is relatively contained because collaborations are presented to a different audience and presented as entirely separate to the core product offering. A third potential plus point, and I am getting into speculation territory here because I don't know how much these things are really part of official conversations, but streetwear brands have experience with high-profile fashion releases and generating hype, and they can do that in a couple of different ways. Distribution and sale of hyped or viral products. These streetwear brands have a lot of experience doing this. They're going to know about people trying to bot their releases, about drop dates, about their sites getting absolutely slammed with traffic on the minute of release. They're going to be able to handle that a lot better than some outdoor brand that's finding new levels of popularity and maybe doesn't really know quite how to capitalize on it. They might even be able to consult or offer advice on numbers as well to make sure that the products sell out and appear relatively popular. And we can't forget marketing and PR. Yes, these outdoor gear brands seem to be doing a pretty good job on their own of having their clothing worn a lot in a streetwear context, but maybe they don't quite have the connections or the infrastructure that these streetwear brands do. They're going to have all the best links to various fashion publications and other kinds of places that can help generate hype for a collection. They also might have great creative abilities or be able to make these promotional videos or lookbooks which can appeal more to a fashion audience and show things off in an environment that's a bit new or a bit out of the wheelhouse of these outdoor brands. It seems like even though Palace and Supreme aren't the golden ticket to hype and popularity that they once were, there are still valid business reasons for these types of brands wanting to collaborate. And I was careful in my wording there, business reasons, because all of these things really stand to benefit the brands doing the collaborations. They're helping to make them more desirable, more appealing to fashion buyers, and ensure a successful promotion before and after launch. What about the poor schmucks that are actually receiving all of this marketing material until the point that we've convinced ourselves that these are the coolest new releases and we simply have to have them? It's easy to feel compelled to spend money on this kind of stuff that comes with this very cool, sexy presentation and the feeling that once it's gone, you're never going to be able to get this stuff again. Speaking of compulsion to buy products, it's time to reintroduce the little items that we'll be taking a look at. The Supreme long sleeve and the Palace zip-up hoodie. Yep, apparently I'm Antwon the brand slave now, but do these have any value to us besides the arguable benefit of them being limited? Let's check out the Supreme long sleeve first, and I guess the first thing you'll notice is that ACG branding being pretty front and center. So what, right? ACG, of course, is currently a huge line for Nike, and over the last few years has established itself as a kind of cool, slightly quirky, lifestyle performance crossover brand. It doesn't take itself too seriously, it's about getting outdoors and having fun, and also using some of Nike's performance materials without going too overboard. However, current ACG is actually a reinvention of the old product line by the same name introduced in 1989. Originally, that was when Nike put high performance and experimental products designed to push the boundaries of clothing at the time. They put out shoes for harsh terrain, snow sports gear, and perhaps most famously, the Air Vantage jacket, which provides insulation by you literally blowing it up. And it's the logo of this Nike ACG specifically that we see here, not the new one. The extreme one, the archival one, the arguably more authentic one, designed to appeal to those in the know, not just the casual new ACG fan. Ugh, imagine wearing new ACG stuff. Rather appropriately, a key piece was the Sherpa fleece, which is a direct recreation of the original version from the 90s, I think, and now pretty sought after. This new version is now making that available again, so people have a chance to get a classic piece, producing something which is clearly in demand by 2022 fashion buyers, and allows Nike to remake something that represents ACG as this retro extreme performance brand, rather than the happy-go-lucky lifestyle kind of performance one that they are now. Anyway, I didn't pick that up because it sold out in under a minute, so back to the long sleeve. It does look a little bit sleek and futuristic with this all black colorway, but it's worth mentioning that other colorways really take the retro appeal further, so clearly it is meant to fit into that same world. From a performance side of things, we see Nike Dry Fit being used, which is their performance base layer nylon fabric. Stretchy and comfy next to skin, it feels pretty good, and they've combined that with some quite visible stitching along the arms, which gives some nice articulation at the elbows. It shows it's a performance product in some respect. The fit though, I think is a little bit more relaxed in the body than I'd expect from a new Nike product, so it's kind of old fit, new construction. I think the body fits great on me, although annoyingly the arms seem a little bit short on this size M. Probably gonna have to switch this up for a large if I want to continue wearing it. It's just not quite right. I also like the mock neck. Again, this is a link back to the performance base layer roots. This will be keeping you a little bit warmer than your standard neck, but is also not too tight. It does have a little bit of room to breathe there. Again, it looks quite nice, and while I wouldn't normally approve of branding on the neck like this, considering this is presenting itself as a performance product, it almost comes across like Supreme is some kind of technology in the same way as Dry Fit. So it kind of gets away with it. I'm not going to tell you that this or any of the other pieces in this collab are a essential must-cop fashion piece right now, but I do think the collaboration has allowed some products to exist that maybe wouldn't have been able to otherwise. If you forget about the limited nature and the Supreme cosign, we do still have that archival reference, the combination of the articulation and retro looks. It's just something that's a little bit different to elsewhere, but it is still an ACG piece first and Supreme second, I feel. Supreme is more the mechanism under which they've been able to release something that's a bit more retro inspired and a bit different. The Palace and Engineered Garments fleece is in some ways similar in that it does feel like an Engineered Garments product first and a piece of Palace skatewear second, although I do think from a design perspective there's a little bit more collaborative effort going on here. We do have fairly noticeable branding on the front and reverse of this, where generally Engineered Garments is a brand that lets the product design do the talking. But I don't think it looks too bad. The front looks as much like a product description that does a standard logo, and the back being tonal and using this unconventional placement definitely helps. It certainly does give the piece a different feel to typical Engineered Garments clothing, but at the same time it feels like Engineered Garments branding rather than Palace branding. You won't see a Triferg on this, for example. Branding wasn't the first thing I noticed about this though, because as soon as I got it out of the packet, you can tell that this is a super heavyweight, really sturdy feeling bit of clothing. It's almost jacket-like. You've got these big thick panels, you've got the nice fleece-lined interior. You would expect at this kind of price point to get a high-quality, premium-feeling hoodie, and you are definitely getting that here. That green multi-paneling also looks great, directly referencing the camo green colors that Engineered Garments is known for. Putting them all together in a way that they'd never normally do to make this look a little bit flashier, a little bit more streetwear approved than their typical offering. The fit is a little bit roomy in the chest with this tighter hem to bring it in, although again I do wish the sleeves were a little bit longer. They look fine, I just feel like I'd want a little bit more room when I'm swinging my arms around. Is this video just just a slow realization that I've got orangutan arms? Again, I think Palace is giving them the means to release a more street-ready and fun collection without your typical engineered garments fan thinking that they've gone off the rails. The promo video certainly puts this stuff in a different light to their usual messaging, and just look at the leopard print used on some of this. It's something you'd be much more likely to see on a brand like Double Taps, which is more of a streetwear and military crossover brand than the utilitarian outdoor-ready look that engineered garments normally presents. This button hood detail here is kind of fun, and I always appreciate the extra stuff designed to drive home that this is some kind of technical product and it offers a little bit more. It looks cool, it looks kind of utilitarian. I have to admit, it's not that useful though. It feels cozy enough when it's done up, but it doesn't look that great, and the hood is a little bit too small to use this effectively when the hood is up, although admittedly I do have a supersized head. I thought it might be useful to wear under a jacket when it's super cold, but again, this didn't really work out either, so you can't win them all, I guess. Forgetting that though, and forgetting the whole FOMO, collab, must consume kind of mindset, what we've got here is a really heavyweight, high quality feeling hoodie. I wouldn't subscribe to paying resale and feeling like you really have to own this. I mean, multi-tonal things exist, comfy hoodies exist elsewhere, but at the same time I can't really conclude that this is just a cynical business move to make a bit of money and drive some sales. Particularly as the Engineered Garments and Palace founders said that they were fans of each other's work, so they actually wanted to link up and do something on that kind of personal level. That just feels kind of cool and wholesome. Mutual respect, we like that. An interesting thing worth noting about this collection is the use of Gore-Tex jackets and pants. Now, it shouldn't be a surprise that an outdoor-focused brand collab would have GTX outerwear, but this is the first time that Engineered Garments has actually been available in Gore-Tex. I wonder if Palace kind of opened the door to this, because they of course have done Gore-Tex jackets before, so maybe that's another potential benefit, is that it allows Engineered Garment stuff to be made in brand new materials that fans haven't been able to get their hands on before. We can't pretend brand collaborations aren't about fueling demand, especially in this case, where outdoor fashion brands are such a hot commodity, they're considered pretty cool. Limited variants of those are bound to get people excited, whilst also making streetwear brands feel more relevant again by association. And it's easy to get swept up in the press coverage, the repost accounts sharing stuff, commentators praising stuff, and the thrill of owning something that other people don't. You could end up buying stuff that you don't actually like that much, or you don't necessarily value over and above the regular non-collaboration versions. However, I also think they allow a different type of clothing to exist, and there are people out there for whom this different type of clothing is exactly what they want. Maybe I'm that person. I've never been a huge Palace or Supreme fan, and I'm not really a fan of massively branded clothing generally. But I found myself liking this stuff more than I imagined, and it's not to do with the brands involved, but the actual design of the pieces and what they offer. I might just have to do a little bit of size swapping. That's what happens when you have to check stuff out in 1 minute and you can't look at the size charts. But what kind of collaborations would you like to see? Do you think this stuff works, the kind of outdoor fashion and streetwear collabs, or would you rather just see outdoor gear stuff do more things together and forget about streetwear entirely? Or hey, maybe some totally off-the-wall stuff. We've already seen some really weird brands collaborate. Let's have some more of that. Thanks so much for enjoying the video. Please do give it a like if you did, and would love to hear some of your thoughts, so please don't forget to comment down below. I also have to say a massive thank you for all the support on the previous video. So many of you had really positive things to say, and honestly, it makes a massive difference, so thank you. And in fact, I took that feedback to change the format of this video a little bit and make it not just a kind of product review talking about physical stuff, but what makes these things interesting at a conceptual level. Quite enough of me. Massive thanks for watching until the end. We'll catch you next time in another video.